this? What would the point of origin if a person has deep fears, paranoia around health issues? For example, which infringement primarily convinced they are sick when it's energetic? That one's huge. That one's huge. I see this one a lot. It's a whole other level. It's one thing to think about something when the health feels good, everything's fine, you have what you need. But the minute our health goes into a state of it's just sometimes it takes all the effort you have just to remember to breathe. It is still our opportunity to recognize that we are more than our body and to recognize that all fear of death comes from the Maya, comes from the body. The body is what is afraid to die. The parasites, the viruses, they are terrified to die. We know that when our body is in an overwhelm of dis-ease, that many times we begin to feel, hear, or sense those negative thought forms that come from the viruses or the bacterias or the parasites from within. And I use the example all the time with food because that one's super easy, or say with sugar addiction or something like that. But it goes beyond that. It goes beyond that. And if anyone's ever had a viral infection, if you really think back on it, it creates really base dimensional thinking. It brings fear. It brings a lot of times anger, being pissed, being upset. Viruses have a very interesting effect on our psychology of our thoughts. And they can make us feel a lot of times, what's the point of living? Why am I even here? Things don't work. So it brings in the depression, everywhere from depression, anger, resentment, all of the above can amplify within. And I'm not trying to say that taking the Christic awareness of it makes it any easier. That stuff is powerful. It's overwhelming. I mean, how many of you like remember having like a flu or being really bedridden? You can't, it's very difficult to think about doing Christic mechanics at that time because you're sometimes just fighting to stay conscious at that time. And if you can at least at bare minimum keep remembering your intention of just that love, that I recognize all things that are going on within this body are for the purification and the greater good of humanity. Even if it's just that fast of a thought before you go right back into also remembering it's me, it's not me. That if you can get to the place that recognizes all thoughts and feelings coming are primarily coming from these other things in our body. We are not our body, and our body is not just a body. It's trillions of consciousness that exists within us. You are like a planet with all of these different conscious beings. And so that would be one way of looking at some of the physicality things and what would be the point of origin if a person has deep fears, point of origin. And then if it's looking at also the tribes, the bloodlines, all of these things, it really just starts to show us the distortions and the different cellular degeneration that has happened through a lot of the hybridization. If you can kind of go back to the Voyagers too and really look at what caused the fall of Alunia, of the original Atlantis, what caused the fall. It's like one sentence. It's like you really got to read between the lines sometimes. It's like one sentence. The digression of the race line started because beings from other places started to come in and breed with them. So basically, mixed or hybridization of the form starts to miss. Some can accelerate it, some can actually uplift it. When we think of the Ceres, the gift of the feather, the Ceres, kickstart. Woohoo! We'll jumpstart this. We'll get this going again. A lot of extraterrestrial influences in planetary systems. So extraterrestrial could have been Syrian Anunnaki breeding on the Pleiadian planetary body. Digression. Orion bodies, Lyran bodies, we're all kind of these mixes. Some support the living life form to perpetuate, many don't. I always just say, look at dogs. Dogs are here to be our example of what tinkering with genetics can start to look like. Poor little dogs. I always feel for little terriers. I'm always just like, what did they put in your genetics to make you so anxious, you poor little thing? There's certain dogs that they just, they can't settle down and their little nervous system can't handle it, right? And then there's other dogs that are like, hey, I'm chill. Do whatever you want.